Good morning, dear reverends, distinguished guests, respected professors, dear colleagues, students, and a very warm welcome to those joining us virtually through the University of Peradeniya YouTube channel and via Facebook Live. It's such a special day for all of us here at the University of Peradeniya. Today, we are not just opening another academic event, we are opening the very first conference organized by the Department of English Language Teaching. This is a milestone, and it's wonderful to have all of you here to be part of it. For many years, the DELT has been at the heart of English teaching in this university, guiding students, supporting teachers, and shaping the way English is learned and used. And now, for the first time, those efforts are coming together on a bigger stage in the form of this conference.
Guided by the theme Reimagining and Rethinking ELT Education in the 21st Century, Value-Based and Critical Pedagogies, Technological Innovations, and Literacy Education. This conference is really about more than just presentations and research papers. It's an invitation for all of us to pause, reflect, and have meaningful conversations about the English language teaching in a world that's changing faster than ever. International Conference on English Language Teaching 2025 is not just another academic event. It's a lively platform where ideas meet practice. It's a space to think, share experience, and learn from each other, to grow as professionals, and to rethink how what we do inside our classrooms can reach far beyond into our communities. Over the course of today's sessions, we'll be hearing from inspiring scholars, teachers, and researchers. They will challenge us to look at familiar issues in new ways, spark new ideas, and encourage us to reimagine what is possible in English language teaching. Together, we'll be building something bigger than just knowledge. We'll be shaping the future of teaching and learning. Thanks to the live broadcast, ICONELT 2025 reaches far beyond this hall, connecting us with the colleagues and friends around the world who share in this journey of reimagining English language teaching.
Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed dignitaries and honored guests, as we gather here today, surrounded by the rich traditions of knowledge and learning, I invite you to take part in a cherished ritual, the traditional lighting of the oil lamp, a symbol of wisdom, knowledge, and new beginnings. So, I would like to invite the following dignitaries to honor us with your presence and to light the oil lamp. Professor Anjit Pallegama, the Acting Vice Chancellor, University of Peradeniya, Professor R.H. Kurupuge, the Acting Deputy Vice Chancellor, University of Peradeniya, Dr. Prabhat Ekanayaka, the Dean of the Faculty of Arts, University of Peradeniya, representing all the deans of the faculties, Professor B.M.H.S.K. Banekar, Dean of the Faculty of Dental Sciences, University of Peradeniya, Professor Pushpa Vitarana, the Conference Chair of ICONELT 2025 and the Head of the Department of English Language Teaching, University of Peradeniya, Emeritus Professor Arjuna Parakrama, the keynote speaker, Dr. Ramola Razul, the keynote speaker, Professor Michiko Weinman, the plenary speaker, representing the directors of the postgraduate institutes and units, Professor Pushpa Kumara, the director of the Postgraduate Institute of Agriculture, University of Peradeniya, Mr. K.A.B. Damunupula, the acting registrar, University of Peradeniya, Mr. A.M.N.B. Arampath, the bursar, University of Peradeniya,
Mrs. H.A.T.N. Amarasena and Mrs. P.K. Herath, the Deputy Registrar, University of Peradeniya, Faculty of Arts, Mr. Yanuka Pahalage, the Assistant Bursar, Faculty of Arts, University of Peradeniya, Mr. R. Maheswaran, the Librarian, the University of Peradeniya, Dr. H. M. C. L. Herath, the Chief Medical Officer, University of Peradeniya, Mr. M. Abe Vikrama, the Public Relation Officer, University of Peradeniya, Mr. Indraji Dizoisa, The coordinator of ICONELT 2025, Ms. Amani Herath, one of the co-secretaries of ICONELT 2025, one person representing DELT academics in other universities, one staff member representing the DELT staff from University of Peradeniya, and one participant representing the other participants.
Ladies and gentlemen, let us now rise for the University Anthem.
Before we move ahead, we'd like to share something very special with you. Every department has a story, and ours is written in words, ideas, and discovery. What you are about to see is more than just a video. It's a journey through the history of English, the responsibility carried on the shoulders of the Department of English Language Teaching, the initiatives that shape our vision, and the research culture that defines our spirit. It is a reflection of who we are, what we stand for, and the future we aspire to build together. Please sit back and enjoy.
English in post-colonial contexts is a kadua of sorts, a giraya which entraps people, and a hydra according to many critics. Despite the politics associated with English, especially in a country like Sri Lanka, one cannot disregard its importance as well. To quote Mendy Sandrabukwali in this regard, English is still pervasive in many areas of officialdom. It is the language used in Sri Lanka's Supreme Court. It has a strong presence in the media and in advertising. It is entrenched in the country's education system, and it is undisputed language of choice in the private business and commercial sectors. In other words, its hegemonic grip on the country is still very evident. Therefore, despite English being not available to many due to historical factors and issues related to class, it has become imperative that one learns English in order to survive in this neoliberal, capital-driven social order. This has become especially true in relation to undergraduates who enter the state universities in Sri Lanka. The responsibility of imparting this knowledge to these students has been entrusted to the departments of English language teaching established at these universities. We at the Department of English Language Teaching, University of Peradeniya, strive to nurture scholars who are not only well equipped with the necessary skills to thrive in this capitalist quagmire, but also mindful and empathetic enough to recognize and critique its inherent injustices. In order to do so, we embrace a strong value-based and critical pedagogy which informs the myriad of teaching practices we adopt to suit the needs of our student population representing different disciplines and faculties, be it humanities and social sciences or STEM.
Department of English Language Teaching, DELT, is one of the youngest departments at the Faculty of Arts, University of Peradeniya, and it has a unique structure. It is centrally located at the Faculty of Arts, and 8 English language teaching units are placed in the rest of the 8 faculties. The department offers its services to nearly 15,000 undergraduates across the faculties through a large number of English courses. During the last 2 years, several initiatives were introduced to enhance the quality of teaching learning process of the department, such as peer observation, post evaluation, workshops for students, preparation of lesson plans for the intensive English program, co-curricular activities, classroom observations, and teacher demonstration sessions for newly recruited teachers. In addition, the department conducted several professional development programs for the teaching staff of the department and an ordinary level seminar series for English language as community outreach activities. Above all, one of the prominent successes of the department was creating a research culture through a series of research related workshops. The journey towards the research culture was initiated by conducting several workshops on action research, which was followed by a series of action research conducted by staff members of the department. As another step, the staff members were guided and motivated to conduct several research activities on AI and English language teaching. During the last 2 years, a considerable number of staff members presented their research at national and international conferences. Organizing an international conference on English language teaching, ICONELT 2025, for the first time in the history of the department, is an outcome of the research culture of the Department of English Language Teaching, Faculty of Arts, University of Peradeniya. The main objective of the conference is to provide a platform for young researchers to disseminate the findings of their research and share their knowledge and experience in English language teaching. I truly believe ICONELT 2025 is a milestone in the Department of English Language Teaching, University of Peradeniya.
Very happy to say a few words about the contribution of the Department of English Language Teaching, especially towards the Faculty of Arts, and also the overall contribution to the university. Actually, the Department of English Language Teaching is very young department of our faculty, but the contribution is not so-called young. So the department providing assistance to direction to our students, develop their linguistic skills, and also research and other social emotional skills, organizing various kind of activities. Especially as you know that our university have 9 faculties. All those faculties, especially English language teaching, come under this English language teaching department. With the dedicated leadership of Professor Puspa Vitarana and committed young academic staff members who are having good qualification, they are providing wonderful service to the especially faculty, faculty of arts, and also overall to the university. So with their dedication, with their direction, all the disciplines, the students who are following all the disciplines get those students get the communication skills in English and also other research and other social emotional development through the department staff members. This is a wonderful initiation. You know that 21st century skills we need to improve within our students, especially the students who pass out from the Faculty of Arts need to have kind of value-added things with their degree program discipline. So that's the expectation of the 21st century. So department is contributing immensely, not only language teaching, other day-to-day activities and also other extracurricular and co-curricular activities of the faculty. So I must appreciate Professor Pushpa Vitarana, head of the department, and young academic staff members who are dedicated and committed to the improvement of the activities of department and the faculty. Apart from that, the department is organizing a wonderful event, the Research Congress. This is the first time in history our university, especially Department of English Language Teaching, organized that kind of event. About 80 years we have a history, but this is the first time we are organizing such event within the department and the faculty. You know that it is great opportunity to young researchers and also especially field of language teaching, English language teaching. Those researchers can contribute their findings and insights to improve the level of English language teaching within our school system, general education system, and especially within the university level. So we invited several academics from other institution, international level. So they will come here and they will they will show us what are the recent development, new development of English language teaching. So this is a great initiation and wonderful event organized by the department. And the Dean of the Faculty is proud of us. And also this is the very wonderful event within the faculty. So I add my heartfelt congratulations and all the success. Wish them all the success about this for this wonderful event. So we will hope we can have insightful discussions, insightful findings, and also we can develop collaboration between the university academics within Sri Lanka and outer world. So thank you so much, head and the staff, organizing this kind of wonderful event within the University of Peradeniya. Thank you so much.
Now, I would like to invite the following dignitaries to take your seats at the head table. Professor Ranjit Pallegama, the Acting Vice Chancellor, University of Peradeniya. Professor R.H. Kurupuge, the Acting Deputy Vice Chancellor, University of Peradeniya. Dr. Prabhat Ekanayaka, the Dean of the Faculty of Arts, University of Peradeniya. Professor Pushpa Vitarana, the Conference Chair of ICONELT 2025 and the Head of the Department of English Language Teaching, University of Peradeniya. Emeritus Professor Arjuna Parakrama, the keynote speaker. Dr. Ramula Razul, the keynote speaker. Professor Michiko Weinman, the plenary speaker. And Mr. Indra G. Dizoiza, the coordinator of ICONELT 2025. Professor Vitharana, who has been teaching in the education department for many years, has brought that same passion and commitment into leading our own department. When she took over as head, she guided us with patience, wisdom, and vision. This conference is a true reflection of her leadership. She has been the pillar holding us together and the driving force that made this event possible. To officially welcome you all, I would like to invite Professor Pushpa Vitharana, the conference chair and head of the Department of English Language Teaching, University of Peradeniya, to deliver the welcome address.
Morning, everyone. It gives me great pleasure and indeed a deep sense of pride to stand before you today and welcome you to the first international conference, ICONELT 2025, here at the University of Peradeniya. This is a historic moment not only for the Department of English Language Teaching, but for the entire university as we bring together researchers, practitioners, and educators from across Sri Lanka and beyond to share ideas, exchange knowledge, and build new connections in relation to English language teaching. First and foremost, I wish to extend a very warm welcome to our acting Vice Chancellor, Professor Ranjit Pallegama, and acting Deputy Vice Chancellor, Professor Ravi Kuruppuge of the University of Peradeniya. It is an honor to welcome our distinguished keynote speakers, Emeritus Professor Arjuna Parakrama and Dr. Romola Razul, as well as our respected plenary speaker, Professor Michiko Weinman. Your presence here enriches this conference immensely. It is also my privilege to welcome Dean of the Faculty of Arts, Dr. Prabhat Ekanayaka, Deans of other faculties, Directors of Postgraduate Institutes, Heads of Departments, and our academic colleagues. I also warmly welcome the Bursar, the Registrar, the Librarian, the Chief Medical Officer of the University, and Deputy Registrars and the Assistant Bursar of the Faculty of Arts. A special word of welcome goes to the chairpersons of sessions, distinguished authors and co-authors who have traveled from near and far to present their valuable research, and to all other esteemed invitees. Last, but not certainly least, I warmly welcome our undergraduate and postgraduate students whose presence today reflects their enthusiasm and commitment to the field of English language teaching and learning. The aim of this conference is to create a vibrant and engaging platform where researchers, academics, and practitioners across the world share their insights, present their findings, and engage in meaningful dialogue on the teaching and learning English. We are delighted to announce that we received 152 abstracts from both local and international scholars. Following a peer review process, 103 were selected for presentations at this conference. And Acting Vice Chancellor, sir, I'm proud to announce that 24 papers are presented by our staff members of the DELT. This is indeed an evidence to the scholarly interest and intellectual richness that English language teaching continues to inspire. I also wish to acknowledge with appreciation the commitment and dedication of our organizing committee, whose tireless efforts to make this a reality. With these thoughts, I once again extend a very warm welcome to all of you. Thank you for being here with us, and I wish all of you a productive, enriching, and memorable conference, ICONELT 2025. Thank you.
Since this is the very first time our department is hosting a conference of this nature, we needed guidance and encouragement to make it a reality. Dr. Prabhat Ekanayaka, who is also the Dean of the Faculty of Arts, has been there for us throughout, supporting us and giving us the confidence to move forward. His belief in this initiative has meant a lot to us. With heartfelt gratitude, I now warmly invite Dr. Prabhat Ekanayaka, the Dean, Faculty of Arts, University of Peradeniya, to address the gathering.
Thank you very much. Very good morning, all of you. Happy day. I'm very proud to be here at the Dean of the Faculty. Vice Chancellor, sir, thank you very much for gracing this event, Deputy Vice Chancellor, sir, especially Professor Pallegama. Uh, Sir, you have experience as a teacher, the English teacher, so you know how hard it is to increase the level of English knowledge our students from very young age and up to now university level. So thank you so much for coming and supporting us. You are always doing with Professor Terence Madhujit. He is the Vice Chancellor now, not in Sri Lanka. Also, he also giving his fullest cooperation and support to develop everything, research, academic activities, and everything within our faculty. So I need to appreciate their contribution. Sir, Professor Arjuna Parakrama, you are the pioneer person, and you enlighten almost all of us here, not only language, you are passionate about your academic journey and life. Still, you are contributing to develop. I know that within this Sri Lanka now we are discussing about how to develop our education system. You are critically the positive insight you are giving always. Thank you very much, sir. Dr. Ramula Rasul and other plenary speaker, all the things. I am not taking much time, but I need to humbly appreciate not only this initiation, first time ever um, having this kind of conference regarding English language teaching, but my journey also from Anuradhapura to here get a lot of encouragement and support from the department up to now. When I was a student, I remember Namali is also here. So we don't have at that time, we didn't have at that time English teachers. From grade 4, I remember one teacher is there in our school, but later after O level, I got one teacher, but he's also graduated from this university as a Sinhala graduate. He teaches English, Sunil Jayaratna sir. So that's the experience. Then with little English, I came to this university with the support of Mrs. Uh, uh, yeah, Elavala, she's no more, and Obri Kurupu, and our renowned Sinhala professor's wife, Mrs. Sorry about that, I forgot that name. Okay, yeah, those teachers help us to improve our level of English. I perform one drama, the main character, this stage. Still, I remember how I memorized that long dialogues. So I කටපාඩම් කරා everything. So then I perform well. Then they teach us not only English, how to perform as the student and the academic like that. So I need to humbly appreciate all those dedicated people behind the development of this department. And special character, Professor Pushpa Vitarana. Now she is the head of the department. She is completing her 3-year tenure as the head of the department. Today, the final date, right? So I requested Vice Chancellor, I nominate her as to the second term for another 3 year. Vice Chancellor accepted. Then she is refusing, continually refusing. She can't do that. But still, Vice Chancellor appointed, and Council will confirm that. So thank you very much, Professor Vitarana. I remember that when I recommend you as the head of the department after completion of the period of Professor Parakrama, I have confidence that she can do this wonderful department, because you know this department catering to 9 faculties out of 15,000 students. This is the biggest department in the island, and I think in the world, right? So it's a wonderful department and very difficult department, handling all the matters and everything. So, but she did very well. I have trust
about her capabilities and capacities because she worked as a English teacher and lecturer, College of Education, and head of the Department of Education, and so many experience like that. So I believe she can do that, and she did very well. At the very beginning, when I tried to appoint her, some concerned academics came and uh, handed over one letter I covered today, not to appoint her as the head of the department. So this is gift from me. So you can go through after completion of your academic life, you will write your autobiography, right? You can include this letter. So concerned academic came to my office and said that don't appoint without the head of the department. So madam, take this one. This is your journey of your life, right? So you can include your biography. And also my batchmate also criticized me not to appoint as batchmate and our colleagues, especially one head came to direct to my office and insult me. Why are you appointing education people as the head of the department? Now, Professor Setunga is the NI Director General, Professor Walter Senator, the head of the Department of Education, Sakuntala Atagamban, head of the Department IT, and another head from your department. Why is you are doing like that? You are very biased towards the Department of Education. But I need to run the faculty and I need to give the full service to the people, right? Students. That's why I have belief. I have trust. I trusted her. She has a capacity to do that. She proved that. Today, you can see how hard she run the department, bring forward the department, and now today she at the very last day of her first term, she organized an international conference which will give more insight, research, and uh, thinking about to develop how we can develop English education within university system, not only university system, school system. I know that there are postgraduate students completed our postgraduate diploma in education program. You can contribute. You are contributing today your experiences, how we can improve. English not anymore considered as kaduwa. This is now with the AI world, we can destroy with learning English, we can destroy stupidity. Yesterday, I said that there are two most common elements in the world. One is hydrogen. Hydrogen is creating things like water, and stars comprise hydrogen, right? Hydrogen is symbol of creation. The other most, the common element is stupidity, gonkama. Sorry about to say that, that's a harsh word, but I still think that how our people they behave like stupidity, using stupidity to take in decisions. Countries, destroying countries, right? Because of stupidity. Within social media, 1 or 2 seconds, you can spread messages all over the world, right? You can gather people with fake news, right? You can see, yes, about couple of days, they destroy wonderful country, Nepal. They build Buddha's birthplace, right? Such wonderful philosophies there. Even in Sri Lanka, we had Aragale without proper vision. We destroy things. We burn down the wonderful heritage. Nepal people burn down wonderful heritage. They are building so many years, right? But within 1 second, they burn down everything. Why? Stupidity. So rulers, leaders, institutional leaders suffering from the stupidity will destroy everything. So English language, knowledge of English language, with knowledge of English language, you can access the real truth, scientific knowledge. We can exchange our heritage with world. That's the fashion of language learning. So thank you very much, all the organizing committee, young staff members, beautiful ladies. You are contributing lot to the development of our future generation. Thank you very much. All the success for the presenters today. Your research will encourage, give insight how we need to develop our language, English language, and also our country. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, we are truly grateful to yet another pillar of this university, Professor Ranjit Pallegama, for his guidance, support, and encouragement. His dedication has been invaluable not only to the success of this conference, but also to the academic growth of our university. It is our pleasure to warmly invite Professor Ranjit Pallegama, the acting Vice Chancellor, to the podium to share a few words with us. We sincerely thank him for all the support he has provided to make this event possible. With that being said, sir, this podium is all yours.
Good morning. So photographers are concerned about it. Good morning once again. Dr. Prabhat, Dean of the Faculty of Arts, Professor Pushpa Vitarna, Head Department of English Language Teaching, distinguished keynote and plenary speakers, Professor Arjuna Parakrama, Dr. Ramola Razul, Professor Michiko Weinman, and also the organizing committee chairperson, Mr. Indra G. Soisa, and deans of other faculties and professors, senior professors, other academic staff members, administrative officers, deputy registrar of the faculty, and the senior registrar of the faculty, and my colleagues and invited guests, undergraduate and postgraduate students. I'm really thankful to the faculty and the department for inviting me for this first conference, international conference on English language teaching 2025. I hope this will, yesterday we had another conference that was repeated for 10 consecutive years, and I'm sure this is going to continue like that. I'm really thankful to Professor Pushpa Vitaran. I remember how she approached me a couple of months before saying that they have this kind of an idea and discuss at the faculty board whether the university could support it. So that I said, within limits, yes. And so she took a lot of troubles, I know, and actually I echo the words of the Dean of the Faculty regarding Professor Pushpa Vitan, who is a very dedicated academic staff member, a dedicated staff member, a very dedicated head of the department of the University of Peradeniya. So that she's taking a lot of burden and she's taking a lot of stress in running things and running this huge department, almost regularly discussing with me various matters in relation to the department, especially keeping and sustaining the people in the department. And so thankful to, definitely thankful to Professor Pushpa Vitarna. And okay, as the Dean reminded me, my history, yes, I was trained as a teacher, English teacher, but I could not teach as I had to get the admission to the university. And but my wife is still an English teacher, trained English teacher, and also a graduate of this university from the Department of English. Her teachers are over there, Dr. Kalukampiti and all, and even Professor Arjuna Parakrama. And my sister, elder sister, is also an English language teacher, again graduate, and also received the diploma, postgraduate diploma from the University of Peradeniya. And my younger sister is also a teacher, and my parents are teachers, both of them. And I have experienced English language learning as a second language for at least 12 consecutive years. And so a lot of related experience. So I'm wondering now, I understand that English language has been a tool or the sword or the kadu of the elite group, at one time. Yes, I agree with that, but it is slowly infiltrating into the common people, poor people, but still the degree of infiltration into the deep areas in the society is not adequate. So that definitely that we get still the students in the university at the time of the admission struggling with their English language teaching. So that is quite evident to me. Professor Bannaheka, Dean of the Faculty. I'm also from the faculty, dental faculty, and also I've been teaching in the Allied Health Science faculty. So we have been teaching in English completely, 100% from the day one. Even the welcome address is given in English language. No Sinhala, no Tamil input. We don't even discuss an example in Sinhala or our English teachers in the dental faculty. They are aware of the real situation that is going on, and that is the situation in the medical faculty, engineering faculty, agriculture faculty, in vet faculty, many other faculties. I think perhaps except the arts faculty, where the programs are done in both languages, or all three languages. Yeah. So that I know there are some students who are struggling because they are this learning English as the second language has not been perfect in their school days. And if I again recollect my own experience, and when I did my ordinary level exam, there were 8 subjects. I got 7 distinctions and 1 credit for English. And we did not have teachers. I was from a good school. There were teachers, but teaching was not effective, to be honest. And we learned something, of course, from tuition classes. And still my father felt that my English is not adequate to face the ordinary level exam. So about 2 weeks before, he bought me a book that is a collection of past papers. So I started doing. So the first paper I myself evaluated, I was getting about 69 or something. And second paper I did, I was getting about 55 or something. So I gave up doing it. So that I thought I'm not going to complete it. So somehow anyway, I got a credit pass for English. So that actually in schools, even in good schools, I was from St. Thomas's Matale. And even in good schools, this English teaching is not perfect, not effective. Teachers are there. So that something is wrong somewhere. And in deep villages, okay, even teachers are not there. So that is the issue. So that this English as a second language is not really, it has not truly penetrated into the society. So that it still exists as a part of the, as a language which is used by a certain class or a group of the society. But again, I relate it to my experience in the university, present experience, especially with the students. Now, okay, so we get students who learn English as a second language to all faculties. They have had it. But those in faculties where the programs are done 100% only in English, they improve faster. In the second year, they are okay. By the third year, they are almost okay. By the time of graduation, as professionals, they are 100% working in English language in the society, in their professional communication, in their professional, with their professional colleagues, or even with their patients and or clients. So that while we concentrate now, because I mean, this is an area of importance, significance for me as the Deputy Vice Chancellor, that the English language competency and of our graduates. Because our graduates are heavily competing with our graduates of non-state universities, private universities, where they are learning 100% in English. So that in years to come, our potentials of our graduates will be seriously challenged unless we take all possible measures to improve their language competency, because still there is a second language for them. And when we are conducting interviews to recruit professional lecturers, which is very evident. But graduates who have graduated from non-state universities, they are perfect. One can say it is the family background. Yeah, but they are in the universities also, they use language, they use English language to communicate with each other, communicate with friends, communicate with their girlfriends, boyfriends, they use. But in the university, especially at Peradeniya, it is prevented. It is prevented by students themselves, and also I don't know whether we encourage it adequately. So that these are things actually that we need to study. And I don't know, these are my experiences. These ideas are coming from my experiences. But I think conference like ICONELT, I mean, we should be having people studying these different aspects in relation to teaching English as a second language, because which is now even in relation to the socio-economic development. We are trying to rely heavily on tourism, for example. I have seen on videos like even some tour guides and even sales girls, even some girls who are selling flowers or selling king coconut, they use adequately good English to communicate with tourists. But of course, if we can take the language to the lowest level in the society, that will definitely have an economic benefit. And that will reduce the economic burden. Now, for example, we are duplicating everything in 3 languages. There is an economic burden on that. Now we are forced to, now that is the language policy of the country, that's okay. Now we are forced to maintain the website, for example, in all 3 languages. So that is an economic burden for us. I mean, when we do not find a webmaster to make the website even in English, now making it in Sinhala and Tamil is a serious burden. So publishing everything in all 3 languages, additional papers, additional time, additional manpower. So when this is happening in the entire country, just I hope economists can calculate the economic burden. So that I think this is definitely a burden on the development as well. So we can discuss. These are some of my ideas. So you can discuss. I mean, these can be research. All these are hypotheses. Yes, I agree. So I think discussion should take place. I mean, if we need to really develop the economy and socio-economic growth, so what are the things that we should be doing to support that? I think getting English language to the lowest level in the society as quickly as possible is of paramount importance for socio-economic growth of the country. That is something that I believe. And also connecting it with digital tools, AI, programming, and all these are basic tools nowadays. Now, a couple of 2 weeks before, in one conference, that is at IPERS, now Dialogue chief analyst, he was mentioning that, maybe some of you are there in that audience, within the last year, they have digitalized 20% of the processes of the company and reduced 20% of the manpower, double the profit. So that is the direction that the world is moving. So that we have to be ready for that. We have to prepare our graduates for that. We have to prepare our school students for that. We have to think around that when we plan teaching, how to teach English as a second language. So because that is the medium. That is the medium in all these. Medium in AI, medium in other IT tools, medium in all these software. So that I think we need to pay, and I hope our colleagues will be doing further research, understanding more, and translating their findings and their data into policy level decision making, so that the country can take better decisions in terms of all these. And also it is important to appreciate that we are living in a multicultural, multilinguistic society, through that, so that when we were interviewing yesterday also, we get Sinhala, where the graduates whose mother tongue is Sinhala has no idea of Tamil. But we have, at least in this university, at least 20% of, or 25% of students are, their mother tongue is Tamil. So we have, in certain faculties, we don't have a single academic staff member who can speak Tamil. When the student population, 30% is Tamil speaking. So the same thing is true in relation to Jaffna University, Eastern University. So if this is a progressive society, I mean, these are the things that we need to address. These are the things that we need to address, and to maintain a progressive society. So I hope, I don't want to take much of your time. Keynote speakers are there. I don't want to make my speech a keynote speech, and so that you will get the maximum out of their speeches and also the conferences. And I hope this conference will be a real success. So I urge and all encourage the organizers and also the participants of this conference to develop English language teaching as a tool that empowers the society, but not specific individuals. So English language should empower the society, but at the moment, English language has empowered individuals. So that is the problem. So that we need to take it further to another level, that it empowers the entire society. So it has an impact on the society. It helps rebuilding the society and our economy and our culture, and for us to help us to move forward. So with these few ideas, let me wind up. Congratulating once again this first international conference on English language teaching. Once again, thanking profusely the department and the faculty for organizing this. I hope this will be a trend, and we will continue to have this conference every year. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. We now come to a very special part of our program, the presentation of complimentary copies of the conference proceedings to our guests of honor. These copies will be handed over by our conference coordinator, Mr. Indraji Dizoisa, and the chair of the technical committee, Mr. Nalaka Hevake, as a small gesture of appreciation for their support and for being here with us to share in this important day. We are pleased to present the conference proceedings to the following distinguished guests: Acting Vice Chancellor of University of Peradeniya, Acting Deputy Vice Chancellor of University of Peradeniya, Deans of the other 8 faculties of University of Peradeniya, the dignitaries at the head table, 4 directors of the postgraduate institutes of University of Peradeniya, the librarian, University of Peradeniya, University Registrar, University of Peradeniya, University Bursar, University of Peradeniya.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, the time has come to officially launch the e-copy of the ICONELT 2025 conference proceedings and the departmental website. To mark this special moment, we warmly invite the Acting Vice Chancellor, Professor Ranjit Pallegama, to officially launch both the e-copy and the website, making these resources available to all participants and extending the reach of the knowledge shared here far beyond this gathering.
To introduce our first keynote speaker, I now invite Mr. Indraji Dizoisa, Conference Coordinator and Lecturer, Department of English Language Teaching, University of Peradeniya, to the podium.
So good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is indeed a proud moment for me because of extreme personal reasons. Firstly, it's with great pride that I stand today amidst three people whom I genuinely love and care for with my life, Professor Arjuna Parakrama, Dr. Ramona Rasul, and Professor Michiko Weinman. And secondly, it's with great pride that I stand on the very stage where my father delivered his lectures for over 41 years in this institution. And at times, a conference can do no harm. And well, at a personal level, beyond the neoliberal dictates of wanting to publish abstracts and get certificates, there is indeed a human element to it. And that is indeed these small personal elements that also give life to so-called conferences that are at times far from being academic, to state the least. Professor Emeritus Arjuna Parakrama is the former chair professor of English at the Department of English, Faculty of Arts, University of Peradeniya, and served as the head of the department as well. He is also the former director of the Human Rights Center at the University of Peradeniya. Likewise, he also served as the head of the Department of English at the University of Colombo and was also a former dean at the Faculty of Arts, University of Colombo. Professor Parakrama also held an important position at UNMIN, United Nations Mission in Nepal, during a key transitionary phase in Nepal's history. Professor Parakrama has written extensively in relation to English language teaching, and politics of language, among others. If this audience expects me to provide a traditional introduction to Professor Arjuna Parakrama, you all are extremely mistaken. An unconventional human being cannot be introduced through what is accepted or what has been determined through convention or tradition. So I'll be taking a few more minutes. For a person who kept a pet squirrel in his shirt pocket during lectures, I still remember the little fellow peeping out from the pocket from time to time. And for scolding me and Dr. Krishanti Ananda once another time on the grounds that we do not love him simply because we did not tell him that the yellow flowers bloomed in Peradeniya when he had gone to Colombo during the weekend. Conventional introductions will never do justice. Professor Arjuna Parakrama has always been and will always be this Derridian flickering presence. He is the panopticon of English and English language teaching in Sri Lanka. He is an enigma, a paradox, a Pandora's box, and a chess master who knows his moves. He is a living embodiment of a combination between an organic and a traditional intellectual who has been dwelling in an academic come scholarly activist space. He is the master of language games in Sri Lanka and beyond, and is also a policeman and a rose. Without destroying the magic, underneath this great scholar and the public intellectual lies a humane human being who loves to love and who loves to be loved. Dear sir, around 1 week back, I was sitting through some of the presentations made by some of our undergraduates at the Faculty of Veterinary Medicine and Animal Science during the undergraduate research conference. Kosala Madam was also there as a panel and as a judge. These young budding veterinary scholars had done fundamental research on topics such as isolation and identification of Leptospira species in client-owned vaccinated dogs, and assessment of the knowledge, attitudes, and practices of dog owners on leptospirosis. Assessment of in vitro efficacy of cinnamon bark oil against 6 prototheque isolates from canine and bovine clinical cases reported in Sri Lanka, and detection and characterization of methicillin-resistant Staphylococcus aureus, MRSA or MRSA, in broiler chicken sold in public market chicken meat shops in Colombo municipality in Sri Lanka. These research studies has a direct impact on the realm of public health, food security, battling zoonotic diseases, and policy implications, among others. Whilst we in the realm of TESOL or ELT are still conducting quote unquote research on finding ways to teach the simple present tense. And I do hope your address today on English teaching versus English use in Sri Lanka, a tale of two worlds apart, will help bridge this gap. Let me end this introduction on a very personal note. For the past 23 years, I have been fortunate enough to associate this great human being in a variety of contexts and in different spaces. But for me, one of the most memorable associations with Professor Parakrama took place at the Faculty of Veterinary Medicine and Animal Science when his pet dog, whom he loves with his life, I would say next to the late Professor Manik Gunasekara, fell sick. He was on the way back from Colombo and called me around 10 p.m. and said that he is coming to the veterinary teaching hospital at the university where Shadow was warded and asked me whether I could come at 11:15 p.m. I immediately got ready and went over to the hospital, and I remember he came slowly and got out of a white color Axio car and came in with the cane in hand, looking extremely worn out and tired. We sat outside for some time and then went into the ward and pulled two chairs next to where Shadow was and sat down. The students of the faculty knew sir, and those on night duty when doing their ward rounds saw the two of us and came to say hello. The senior clinician was Dr. Danushka Sayani, and the other one was Dr. Dima Teranda, the then president of the Students' Union of the veterinary faculty. Sir invited both of them to sit down, and until 2:45 a.m. in the morning, he spoke of literature, politics, and life. We listened to him in awestruck silence at the sheer brilliance of his intellect, thinking, and his humane nature, despite him being exhausted. That is the brilliance of this great man, and we are indeed blessed in every form to have got this chance to associate him at a very close personal level. He will always remain to be the unmatched head of the DELT, the scholar, the researcher, the activist, the academic, the administrator, and most of all, a human being. Dearest sir, we love you, sir, and that love will never fade away. And hence, with love from all of your former colleagues and the students at DELT, University of Peradeniya, this stage is yours.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Indraji, for that very moving introduction. The incidents are true, but nothing else. So don't accept but that's Indraji. And I'm very happy to be here today to, among old friends, to sort of speak my mind is the only way I can do. So I will crave your indulgence. I'm, as I said, very happy to be here for two reasons. One, of course, is the most important reason that Peradeniya is my home, and I'm here among friends, and so therefore that's very comforting. The second reason is I was given a challenge by Professor Pushpa. 20 minutes, I've done about 40 odd keynote addresses. 20 minutes is by far the least time ever assigned to me. So let's see what I can do with 20 minutes. Okay, so English teaching versus English use in Sri Lanka, a tale of two worlds apart. It is the best of times, it is the worst of times. It is the age of wisdom, it is the age of foolishness. It is the epoch of belief, it is the epoch of incredulity. It is a far, far better thing that I should do than have ever done. As you know, Tale of Two Cities. So I'm actually playing with the Dickensian thing. This is a really key moment for us because we are at a cusp, I would like to say, where if we don't take up the challenge, we're going to be in deep trouble. We're going to be back to where we began. And English teaching is a new beginning every day, every hour, every class. No, I think it's skipping. Yes. So I'm quoting a very sort of erudite mathematician and scholar. I hope some of you recognize the place this comes from. It's no use going back to yesterday because I was a different person then. I think part of the problem is that we are still doing the same old thing that we did earlier without recognizing that we are all different people and the situation is different. So 5 generalizations I will use to begin. Let me risk 5 generalizations here that I believe should be taken into account in any serious contemporary discussion on English language education anywhere, and especially in Sri Lanka. These may appear innocuous, even self-evident, and hence not worthy of either scholarly focus or practitioner attention, but that's a grave mistake. The first one. Attitudes of learners to the English language have evolved many times in significant and nuanced ways, but the attitudes of both teachers and scholars in the field have remained rooted in a now irrelevant past. This has created and reinforced a fundamental mismatch between teaching aims and learner objectives. On the ground, in turn generating pathologies and predictable failures for the majority of learners who are not upwardly mobile. The second point, this teacher-learner performance discrepancy is most problematic where it should be the least difficult to address, and where the adverse consequences have the most negative impact in none other than the state university system. The more curricula and teaching methodology is changed, the more it remains the same. There are shining, brilliant exceptions, but that is what they are. Exceptions that test the rule, not replicable nor sustainable. The intractable problems of English teaching in the school system, which is a textbook reproduction of socioeconomic class-based access. So the poor have less English, the rich have more English, the urban have more English, and so on, is reproduced in the university, with, in general, the upwardly mobile group prospering and the others being doubly burdened. Burdened by the economic issues and burdened by the absence of English, which is not their fault. Number 3, this is due in part to the regrettable fact, and here the audience will probably be unhappy, the regrettable fact that unlike in other disciplines, neo-colonialist attitudes and values towards English still rule among policymakers, elite gatekeepers, university administrators, and senior academics across the board, which militate against sound, evidence-based approaches to teach English in ways that lie outside these unexamined hierarchies and hegemonies. They are unexamined because we think the best English comes from somewhere else. And whatever we say, that's what happens in the university system as well. To its eternal shame, it is no accident that tiny Sri Lanka boasts of having the largest British Council in the world. Not relatively, the largest British Council in the world, to our eternal shame. It is recycling colonialism and English at the same time at exorbitant rates and is heavily patronized by the university system. We discuss and say, if you want the best English course, let's go to the British Council. In fact, if you look at RP, receive pronunciation, how many of you have looked at the word received from where? God. It's not something that people use, it's something received, like the Holy Grail or the scriptures or, any of those things. 4, this problematic, in the Althusserian sense, of English language teaching university system in Sri Lanka is linked to the broader problem of university education itself. And one cannot be effectively addressed without the other. For instance, Professor Doric D'Souza designed the extraordinarily successful English teaching program in Peradeniya in the 1960s with the first so-called Swabhasha batches entering. He designed it with a strong focus on reading and writing, as the students at the time needed to read reference works in English, take detailed notes on their own, and so on. Prove me wrong, but current teaching still, by and large, focuses on reading and writing with that same mindset. Though hardly any outside reading in English is done by students, and I dare say most faculties, under peril of failure. There is actually an injunction: don't read more than your lecturer, or don't read anything different. 5. Again, unlike other disciplines, English teaching and learning in the university system has been structurally reduced to English learning, where the onus is on the student to pass or fail on his or her own risk and liability. To remedy low attendance and even lower performance, certain competence levels have been made compulsory for passing. You can't get your degree unless you pass level 1 or 2 or whatever. Next, so you have made that compulsory. Next, to prevent large numbers failing these compulsory courses, which would lead to campus-wide mayhem, students are passed through the system, even when they don't meet the minimum required standard. They come to class, they do what they have to do, sit their English exams, and pass. But what have they learned? Random ad hoc discussions with past students, that is, students who have passed, indicate that they have not learned much that lasts. They are, of course, blamed for this. So it's in this faculty where, it's in this unit where the students are blamed. In another subject, if you have all kinds of students failing, they will ask about the teacher or the program. Here it's a student. We have ready-made reasons to provide. So given time constraints, I will focus on the changing attitudes to English to explain its impact on English teaching and learning today. So I'm going to try some ideas here. That's what I think this keynote should be. None of you will agree with all of it. I hope some of you will agree some of it. So the premise is, attitudes have changed with students, but not with teachers, not with administrators, not with the hierarchies. So if you look at this, so I've tried to divide into 3. The status of English was the state of English teaching in relation to public aspirations to learn English. So if you look at, I don't know how clear this slide is, what I'm suggesting is, whereas round about the post-2009 period, there was a balance. So teaching English, the status of English, the status of English teaching. In other words, how do we revere our teachers, our programs? Do we accept them? Do we think they're good? Can we criticize them? And so on. In the earlier stages, the status of English teaching was high. What I'm suggesting is, in the current situation, due to a number of reasons I don't want to go into at the moment, the public aspiration to learn English is almost 100%. The status of English is also extremely high. But the status of English teaching is the lowest it has ever been. We need to ask ourselves why. They don't really regard English teachers and teaching and materials very highly, which I think is a very salutary thing, but we need to try to get under the skin of that. So here is what I'm plotting as the ordinary user. You'll ask me how to define it. I don't think you can define me these things, but you know who the ordinary user is. Their attitude. In phase 1, I'm identifying 4 phases. In the first phase, there was a reverence to English in that early independent, post-independence period. Because as the unknown, very few English teachers, very few had access to English and so on. As you know, the universities in the 40s, there were 197 students admitted to the university, all faculties. So that moved to thousands with the so-called Subhasha batches. So reverence to English is the unknown. That developed as fear of English and anger against English. This is what I call the Kaduwa phase. with Kandai and others have talked about, the phase where there is anger, there is resentment, and so on. Then phase 2 is the desire, because the learners are changing. The teachers are not so much, but the learners are changing. Desire to learn English mixed with some fear and a little respect. So there is a desire, and that's not because English is great, because of the opportunities it provides, because of the bottlenecks if you don't learn, and so on. So the desire to learn English was mixed with some fear and little respect. That moved to the third phase, which is using every opportunity to learn English with little discernment regarding quality or focus. So if somebody said English, you don't look for qualification, you just go. So you have 3 English classes, you go to all 3. Preferably ones that you have to pay for, because there is an understanding that if you don't pay for it, it's useless, including the university classes. We had wonderful examples where students in the university were in the university building itself were taking English classes when somebody was not competent and paying for it, while they didn't come to the English class done by the ELT at that time. So phase 3 uses every opportunity, and there's an intensive focus on verbal communication. But they're still defensive. The students are defensive, and the elite still scoff. The so-called broken English, not pot, that kind of stuff is there, but they want a spoken English, whatever that is. So now we move to the fourth phase. English seen as a tool. There is very little inferiority complex here. They're not saying we can't pronounce, we can't do this and so on, because that's no longer a matter of interest. So what I would like to say is, Kaduwa was where there was anger and resentment and fear. Kadda is entirely different. So don't think of it as synonyms. Kadda means we know that's something that you do, but that's not something we really respect. So there's a healthy disrespect for wannabe elite and posh users. In fact, if you look at TikTok, you will see some of the users say, we are not posh, we are using English, all kinds of stuff, defensive. We are yet to see this TikTok and other stuff which actually insult and caricaturize those posh speakers, which you get abroad. So parody, mimicry, critical engagement, the elites are now unsettled. They cannot understand or control the change. Hence they resist it very strongly. So this is, I think, the next phase, part 1 or part 2 of phase 4, fundamental changes in Sri Lankan English use, resisted by the gatekeepers and the internationalists. Those who say that measure of English is TOEFL and IELTS and Pearson's, which is quite nonsensical. It's racist, colonialist nonsense, but we subscribe to that. So you have to pronounce and understand a different accent. And I refer you to look at, there are many videos that talk about completely unintelligible UK dialects, including those in Glasgow, the Cockney, and various other things. Do you tell them you don't know English, study TOEFL? Or IELTS or whatever? No. I've been in conferences with, excuse me, can you repeat that? I'm not quite, it's my fault. I can't hear. My ears are blocked. Please tell me that again slowly. So it's the racism, unexamined racism that comes out. So it's reflected in the increasing extra-linguist value of English and its playful, non-elite misuse. We need to recognize this. As I said everywhere, persistent mistakes are critique. Like in the Freudian saying, you slip of the tongue, or if you forget something, then you're forgetting it for some reason. So now would you tell me please which way I ought to go from here? That depends on how a good deal on where you want to go. I don't know. I don't much care where. Then it doesn't matter which way you go. I think we are in this situation. So what I would like to do here, so I have a lot about the general public response, and I'm explaining that in detail. But I would like to say that if you look at the history, we can see what I'm suggesting is there's a radical change, a number of changes, and we're in a healthy situation where they don't revere English in the way we do. They don't give a hoot about the kind of pronunciations that we would flinch at, that we'd find objectionable, that we still want to impose and enforce. They don't care. So if what I've outlined is at least partially accurate, and I welcome disagreement and discussion, then the core question remains, what should be done? So from there, let me move to, there is a long theoretical exposition, I'm not going into that. And I'm going to present you some data from responses to a Google form. I use it merely to reinforce or critically support the empirical and theoretical observations I have made, which are quite radical. I'm not saying the data is what made the observations. I'm saying I'm making the observations, and this is to support or refute, at least food for thought. A fuller, more detailed and sophisticated quantitative and qualitative study is required before such information can be used definitively. And I would urge, Peradeniya has always been in the forefront in terms of the English language teaching, from the wonderful days of Professor D'Souza, Professor Kandaya, Professor Diabru, and so on. And I think even the others. So we need to try to recognize that. And I'm offering this as a kind of shocking reminder of the discrepancy between what we think we are doing. This is not a survey of Peradeniya students, it's a survey of graduates. So what we think we are doing and what is actually happening in terms of the perception of the key stakeholders, who are our former students. So let me start with the most frightening. So please note, as I keep saying again, it's a plea. This is not why I said that. This is supporting what I have said. Right, now be ready for the shocker. It's a dangerous thing to unbelieve something only because it frightens you. I hope you know the source by now of these wonderful quotes. The first question was, comparing university and private English classes that you attended, which of the following is accurate? The frightening figure is 32.5% say both private tuition and English are not useful. Those that say university classes are more useful is the lowest figure there. They say private tuition classes are slightly more useful. And when they say both types of classes are equally useful, that's ambiguous. They can be equally useful, equally useless. So the frightening figure is a third of them say that the English classes were not helpful in the real world. So let's look at the next one. Again, as I said, these are indicating and trying to support what I have said. At least I mean what I say. That's the same thing, not the same thing a bit. You might just as well say that I see what I eat is the same thing as I eat what I see. To what extent did your studying English in the university help improve your use of the English language? Now, I would like to say that 1 is very much, but no, 1 is very little and 5 is very much. Right? So we have a significant number who have said that English has not helped them at all. And if you look 1 and 2, both are negative. So that's about 50%. And then you have a group for whom English is excellent. The English taught. That's my point. There is a dichotomy here. There is a group which we are serving very well. The upwardly mobile, well-prepared, middle class group of students, we are serving them well. But the other group, imagine saying it's no use at all or very little use. I mean, if you sat with somebody for 3 hours a week, even if you did nothing, that would be of some use. So obviously the opportunity cost is a question here. Now, a slow shot of country. Now here you see, it takes all the running you can do to keep in the same place. If you want to get somewhere else, you must run at least twice as fast as that. We need to run twice as fast because these things are changing. We can't afford to have last year's or last decade's thinking. To what extent did the English you learnt at the university help in obtaining employment? This is frightening. It says almost 45%, about 37% say very little. And the group that says very much is again that group that would benefit anyway. That's the well-prepared group we are working with. But can you imagine them saying it doesn't help us in obtaining employment? So now let's look at the next one, which is the logical conclusion for that. The guards a memory in the place of dreams, that is where you and I shall meet. To what extent did the English you learnt at the university keep help in your regular work at your job? That's even worse. The English they learn, so they probably don't need to, discuss the past perfect tense in relation to the present continuous or progressive or something. They can't do. So basically, what we're saying is, again, that group, the five, those who profit are there. So that is our strength. But this is our weakness. Okay, the time has come to talk of many things, of shoes and ships and sealing wax, of cabbages and kings. At least now you know where the quotes are coming from. Which of the following best describe the way English was taught to you at university? Not this university, many universities. If you look at it, the lot of lessons and activities, lot of individual speaking, use English practically are the lowest practiced. The highest practiced is grammar and correcting mistakes, 50%. Formal English, more than in everyday use, 45 or 46%. More reading and writing, less listening and speaking, the next highest. So this is their perception, maybe completely wrong, but their perception is it's formal, it's classroom, it's grammar based, it's not the things we want. Sometimes I believed in as many as 6 impossible things before breakfast. How should university English classes improve to help undergraduates? Sad to say, no change required is a very smallest number. Using less singular, so the immersion is again not very popular. More emphasis on reading, writing, again not popular. Using more first language seems to be popular, particularly among weaker groups. Then you have lesson material should change, focus on objective or English teaching should change, teaching methods should change, practical emphasis, especially on speaking and listening, is the highest, 75%. So that's what they need. They don't need Professor Doric D'Souza's, academic writing kind of thing at this group. Nothing is impossible. The word itself says, I'm possible. In your view, what are the most important areas that English teaching in the university should focus on? Giving me a better knowledge of English grammar is the lowest mark. Making materials and teaching methods closest to my experiences. Next, but the real ones are helping me more comfortable with the English speaking elite. That's interesting. But the 3 that are the most important is using teaching materials that help us understand our main subjects better, helping us to use English in public by organizing more activities and debates, etc., increase my confidence in using English. So very clear. Their responses are very clear. There is no ambiguity here. But the thing is, this is what they need. We need to now rejig ourselves to give them this kind of thing. So here's the creative English. It says cycle service. Everybody knows what cycle service is, but it's phonetic. Why do we laugh? Or this, which is, I couldn't resist this one. Can you see the problem with this? I've shown this elsewhere. Can you see the problem with this? Anyone in the audience? Huh? Sri Lankan? Oh, this is a Tamil school and the board is only in Sinhala. Isn't that amazing? So the students in the school will not be able to read their board about their school, which says, this is my school. Fabulous. And I would say this is our problem with our learners. They are in between 2 worlds. The world of their own language and the world of English. And so the same, we need to recognize that. And then of course there is a rope, not a sword, but maybe the rope hanging. So I say human beings are free to act out their own histories, but they're not free to write the script. That is what we need to understand. Different types of learners need to be catered to differently, and that we need to understand. And this is from Gramsci. My practically consists in this knowledge that if you beat your head against the wall, it's your head which breaks and not the wall. That is my strength, my only strength. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your enlightening keynote speech, sir. And now, to introduce our second keynote speaker, I invite Mr. Nalaka Hevage, Lecturer, Department of English Language Teaching, University of Peradeniya.
A great teacher inspires, but a true scholar transforms the world around them. Today, we are honored to listen to one such transformative figure. Good morning, members of the clergy, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It is both my privilege and pleasure to introduce our next keynote speaker for ICONELT 2025, a scholar whose passion for language, equity, and education has left an indelible mark on English language teaching in Sri Lanka and beyond. Dr. Razul is a name that resonates deeply in the academic and professional spheres of linguistics and English language teaching. She currently serves as the director of the Postgraduate Institute of English at the Open University of Sri Lanka, a role she has held since 2022, furthering her lifelong mission of enriching and expanding access to quality English language education. Her academic journey is a blend of intellectual depth and international prestige. She earned her PhD in arts from the University of Melbourne, Australia, a distinction she achieved under the highly competitive Leadership Award, Australian Leadership Award. Prior to that, she was a Fulbright Scholar at Teachers College, Columbia University, USA, where she completed her master's in teaching of English to speakers of other languages. Her academic roots were first grounded in Sri Lanka, where she graduated with a BA Honours in English from the University of Kelaniya. With over 25 years of service in the field of English language teaching in Sri Lanka, Dr. Razul has taught across a remarkable range of courses in ESL, TESOL, sociolinguistics, academic writing, academic literacy, and business communication. Her teaching engagements extend to several leading state universities and postgraduate institutes, making her a respected and sought-after scholar across the island. Her leadership roles have been just as influential. She has served as head of the English language teaching unit and acting head of the Department of English at the University of Kelaniya, and has chaired key academic conferences, including the International Conference on the Humanities 2015 and 2016. From 2018 to 2022, she made her mark as the senior academic expert for the World Bank Ahead project implemented by the Ministry of Education, a testament to her ability to blend theory, policy, and practice for national development. Dr. Razul's scholarship is as impactful as her teaching. She is deeply committed to the preservation of lesser known and minority languages, particularly Sri Lanka Malay. Her research explores themes of language endangerment, identity, power, privilege, and language policy in post-colonial contexts, offering critical insights into the cultural and linguistic landscape of Sri Lanka. Her publications, including chapters in internationally acclaimed volumes published by Brill and presentations at prestigious conferences from Germany to Indonesia, have helped amplify lesser-known voices in the field of sociolinguistics. Among her many accolades are the IMRA Award for Excellence 2024, Scholarship and Education, the Best Researcher Award from the Open University of Sri Lanka in 2023, and the US Sri Lanka Fulbright Commission's Small Grant Award in 2024. She has also been a resource person for the National Institute of Education, a member of the Official Languages Commission of Sri Lanka, and an Australia Awards ambassador championing international academic collaboration. Beyond the titles and the publications, Dr. Romola Razul brings a uniquely humanistic lens to our field. Her work reminds us that language is not just a system of communication, but a vessel of identity, memory, and power. As educators and researchers, we are called not only to teach language, but to preserve it, respect its diversity, and understand the politics that shape its use in our societies. Dear colleagues, it is rare to encounter an academic whose life's work truly embodies some of the themes of this conference: innovation, inclusivity, and impact in English language teaching. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Romola Razul, the illustrious academician of our times, to the podium. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. While this happens, let me just get the preliminaries out of the way. Thank you very much, Nalaka. Very flattering introduction. I feel, though, that you have set me up for failure. Highly worried now. But thank you very, very much for this kind invitation. I am very pleased to be here, so my thanks to Professor Pushpa and the staff of the DELT. Just a little bit about myself. Many years ago, when I was asked, like everyone else, for the 2 or 3 universities where we would like to do our undergraduate study, topmost was Peradeniya. That was my biggest dream for as long as I could remember. I think doing English literature was also because I wanted to come here and learn from all the big names mentioned by Professor Parakrama. And also, I have to admit, a huge part of the attraction was to live away from home also. That was also there. And somehow I was not accepted, ended up going to Sri Jayawardhanapura, but for various reasons, proximity being one of them also, eventually transferred to Kelaniya. And it is in Kelaniya that I have been working for the last 20-something years, so it didn't work out too bad. But I keep telling Indraji and everyone, just invite me to Peradeniya whenever you can, because I'm very happy to come. So I am pleased to be here, and not so pleased to be talking immediately after the illustrious emeritus professor. Hard act to follow. Please sympathize with me. And I have to say that unlike his very good friend and my mentor, Professor Manik Gunasekara, who would always, because I told her very early in my career, please, Manik, leave the room. You make me so nervous. So every time I had to present, she made some snide remark, rolled her eyes, but she left the room. But I don't think I can ask her friend to do that. So he's going to be here and I'm going to talk. Right. Macro level challenges to preserving and promoting the lesser known languages of Sri Lanka is what I would like to talk about in the 20 or so minutes I have. You must be wondering why I have chosen such a topic when I know that this is your first ELT conference and I am talking largely to a group of academics engaged in English language teaching. I do so quite deliberately, because we need to look at the role of English not only in getting our students employment and getting them from point A to point B, but we also need to understand the role of English in creating inequalities, in making the divide between the those who have access bigger. And also we need to understand that the English and such large languages in across the world are actually a threat to the survival of the smaller languages across the world. And why does that matter? Because we know that all the languages in the world are deeply tied to the identity of those who speak it. It is very important that symbolically these languages are recognized by the state and the state actors. And my thesis today is that there is a lot more that can be done in Sri Lanka for the lesser known languages. And I've had this in my head for a long time, but I guess I was just too afraid to speak out. But I have just entered the last decade of my service as an academic, and I thought if I don't speak it out now, I never will. The second reason why I chose this topic is that I am very deeply aware of where I am speaking. I know I am speaking to a group of largely majority community, majority language speaking, highly educated people from the upper echelons of the majority speaking community of this country. Therefore, I thought that this is an opportunity for me to discuss, to put out there what I think we collectively need to do in order to minimize these challenges for those who may not have the power to ask for those rights. So, let us remind ourselves that questions of language are always, but always, questions of power. We all know of Noam Chomsky, who has done a lot for linguistics, but in a little known piece called Language and Responsibility in 1979, he said this, and it still rings true. There are really no questions of language which are not underpinned by questions of power. And why do I keep, this has been asked of me, so why do I call them lesser known languages? Because the other term is minority language. But if we keep calling these languages minority languages, we know that minority exists in contradistinction to majority. And that whole discourse is not very productive also because minority status and majority status are measured using numbers, and that numbers game doesn't really reflect the full picture, that there are problems that the numbers game does not reveal. And also because as long as we keep calling them minority languages, they will always be considered less important than majority language or languages. So I want to place before you very quickly 4 issues that I see. There is no mention of the lesser known languages in our constitution. Now, you may not have thought about it because the constitution is taken as sort of God-given, as scripture. But and I will show you examples of other countries where constitutions have been amended as they should be. And these amendments have been made to include other languages which over time have fought and lobbied and made their way into constitutions. So we know this. The Constitution of Sri Lanka, Chapter 4 says we have 2 official and national languages, and we have 1 linked language, a rather ambiguous term. We don't know what it links, this English, whether it links the 2 major communities or whether it links all Sri Lankans with the rest of the world, but linked language. And also we know this, that there is no mention of any other languages. Lim and Ansaldo in 2007, when the interethnic war was going on, made an important point. They say that in contemporary Sri Lanka, there is no place in the official spheres for addressing and politicking for minority rights. That was in 2007. And before that time, before 2009, really, we all know about the problems that this country was embroiled in due to matters of language policy, language rights, denial of rights, and then the fight to assert rights. So maybe at that time, there was no place for addressing and politicking for minority rights. But my argument is, will there ever be a right time for politicking about minority rights? So why don't we just start politicking for minority rights? So if you ask Ethnologue, the best known source for about the languages in existence in the world, it gives you these 7 languages which are spoken in Sri Lanka. But we know that there are more than that number of languages. There are at least this many. And you are welcome to tell me if you know of any others where there are active, actual speakers. So, of these, we have about 8 or 9, well, 7 or 8 at least, which are not acknowledged in the Constitution. So I'm asking, how does non-acknowledgement affect the future of these languages? The first thing is, and this I have tried because, like Nalaka said, I also served for a short while in the Official Languages Commission. And when I tried to bring this up, what they said is, no, Dr. Rasul, our mandate is to implement what has been set out in the Constitution. So if no other languages are ever going to make it to the Constitution, there is no guarantee that these languages will ever have any chance in the macro context of this country, because the state cannot be held accountable. And it affects how and to what extent the state supports the lesser known languages and the speakers of these languages. It leads to further marginalization of the language and the community. So some of those languages, the linguistic groups that I mentioned, they are already very marginalized for historic, socio-political, economic reasons. If you take the Adivasi community, if you take the Afro-Portuguese or the so-called Kafir community, if you take the Sri Lanka Portuguese community, they are already on the margins, in the periphery of our society. And this kind of never acknowledgement, not non-acknowledgement, if we don't do anything about it, this never acknowledgement will affect how they are positioned in our society. It also affects how the community members view their own language. Now, this I know is true of the Sri Lanka Malay community also, because you have people who are saying, no, but our language is just, not important. It's not even mentioned in the Constitution. It's not even, people don't even ask about our language at the census. So, I'll just teach my children Sinhala or English if I can and try and get them a job. But I would like to draw your attention to an important distinction that Heinz Kloss made in 1977, which I think is still valid. Kloss distinguishes between tolerance-oriented language rights and promotion-oriented language rights. So if you ask anyone, I'm sure if I ask anyone in this room and I say, do you think that language rights are, that there are any obstacles to the language rights of people in this country, they'll say, no, so you can go and perform any language. You can go and sort of have the identity of any community in our society. That's fine. Nobody's objecting. But that is a tolerance-oriented approach to language rights. You do your thing. We won't say anything. Okay, and that means it's tolerated mostly in the private sphere. But there are countries that have a promotion oriented approach to language rights. That means countries that recognize and promote minority or lesser known language communities and allow them by doing so to perform their identity in the public sphere. So that is what Kloss is saying here. If you look at the last sentence, promotion-oriented language rights involve public authorities in trying to promote a minority language by having it used in public institutions, legislative, administrative, and educational, including public schools. So a more proactive, promotion-oriented approach is what I think we need to think about. Very quickly, Nepal, a country that is in the news for very unfortunate reasons at the moment, but it is a country which said that all languages spoken as the mother tongues in Nepal are the languages of the nation. So even though the languages are not mentioned by name, there is that acknowledgement. Official language is Nepali in the Devanagari script, but a state may by state law determine one or more than one languages of the nation spoken by a majority of the people within that state as its official language. So there can be the nomination of another language if it is the majority language of the state. In India, and I'm sure many of you know this, there are 22 languages mentioned in their 8th schedule. And this is what I meant when I said that the constitution the 8th schedule was amended over a period of time. Originally, it included only 14 languages. Sindhi was included in 67, 3 more in 91, and 4 more or so in 2004. So this can be done. And there are also 38 more languages which are lobbying to be recognized in the 8th schedule of the Indian Constitution. Right. My issue number 2 is that there is no enumeration of the speakers of languages in our census. Now we have just completed the one census, and here, like in every other previous census, there is no actual count of how many people speak a language. When the enumerators go, they will ask you for ethnicity, but there is no box to tick or no questions asked about which language do you identify as your mother tongue. In smaller language communities, this is very important. And also because there is no, like I say here, the conflation of ethnic group and speakers of language is problematic, because when you have mixed marriages, just because the ethnicity is taken by the ethnicity of the father, that doesn't mean they speak the father's language at all. There is no neat correlation between the two on the ground. Again, going back to India, there is this language atlas of India. So it was published in 2011, and they're working on publishing another one now. So here you can see that it's actually an atlas of all the major language groups of India, and there are many. A country where there are at about 121 languages documented, and they say over 1,000 smaller languages, dialects, undocumented languages in the country. So it's no easy task, but there are massive attempts to document the languages, to see which language groups they fall under, and to group them so that revitalization work and also state funding can be apportioned appropriately. Okay, so that is the other problem I see, that in our country, we just ask for ethnicity and we assume that everybody from X ethnicity speak X's language only. Then, since we don't have a document that a census that gives us the number of speakers of a language, the closest thing we have is ethnicity. But only 7 ethnic groups are mentioned by name. So here you will see, if you do a quick count, we have Sinhala and Sinhala Tamil and Indian Tamil, which I quite deliberately count as one. Moor, Burger, Malay, Chetty and Bharata. Every other language and language speaker is enumerated under other. Okay? And the Adivasi community, so the oldest inhabitants of the land, we call them Adivasi, we call them Vedda, we call them Vanyaletto. They were last enumerated in 1963. Okay? And based on a rationale of, oh, the numbers are declining, and you can see there is a decline, there is no argument there, but based on that argument, since 1963, they have been taken away as a separate category and they have been put under other. But considering their status, not only as the earliest inhabitants, but also how very marginalized they are and what a lot of challenges they are facing, we are not really doing anything to address those challenges by putting them in that lot of other. Then Indian Muslims, last enumerated in 71, and so-called European, last enumerated in 53, all these go into that other basket. But if you take Indian Muslim, you have, so the Memon community, the Bora community, all these communities and several other small in number, but that is a very diverse sub-basket in the big basket. And also, so you will see that Sri Lanka Chetty and Bharata are there after Burger and Malay, and those two, interestingly, were included in 2001. They didn't, the original census didn't have them. And why were they included? Christopher in 2015 says the census reports made no comment concerning the reasons for the inclusion of the groups or their numerical viability as census categories, because numerically they are not viable as census categories, as you can see. But Silva in 2007 says, and this is closer to the truth, this was in response to representations made by these two groups to President J.R. Jayawardena. So, language issues are always power issues because these two communities are socioeconomically very powerful, very influential, small but rich in simple terms. And they have access to the higher echelons of power. And that is the only reason why they made it, because if you look at the numbers, they aren't that big and there is a big decline anyway. So there should be a questioning of whether, you want to have the Bharata communities enumerated separately in the 2024 census, which did not happen, 2023 census, sorry. The fourth point is, so the first three were constitution and census related points, but the fourth and last one is to do with us. What are we doing while we are teaching the beaver? We also have a larger responsibility as academics engaged in the dissemination of any language, because as we all know, language is about politics and language is about power. So, there are no academies or institutes devoted to teaching or researching lesser known languages in this country. There are studies, these have been done by individual academics or local community workers or together, but they are piecemeal and there is no one place in which there are, conferences, discussions, sort of research projects that can actually address this problem. Why are these institutes or whatever needed? To conduct research on lesser known languages, to engage with communities on language revitalization initiatives, to document and describe lesser known languages, to train academics, government officers, community members, etc. What I mean here is that enumerators really need training. They need to be trained to ask the right questions in all three languages, the questions that will give us the answers about the languages spoken in addition to ethnicity. To teach or train community members to teach their languages if they wish. So that was my last point, that we all need to think about how we can actually, now we have one department of linguistics in one of the universities, and we have linguistics being taught as English and linguistics in at least two other universities. But I'm just going to say it here, not enough work is being done on these languages. We need a lot more work, either from departments of linguistics or ideally, of course, from different newly instituted departments. So, concluding thoughts. Constitution needs to be amended. Census needs to enumerate linguistic groups separately. Inclusion of ethnic groups should be done based on a transparent rationale, and universities need to be more active in addressing this issue of lesser known languages. That is it. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you very much, Dr. Rasul. To introduce our plenary speaker, I now invite Ms. Kaushala Jayasinghe, Lecturer, Department of English Language Teaching, University of Peradeniya.
Good morning, distinguished guests, esteemed colleagues, presenters, and dear participants. It is both a privilege and a pleasure for me to extend a warm welcome to Associate Professor Michiko Weinman of Deakin University, Australia, as the distinguished plenary speaker of our first international conference on English language teaching. Professor Weinman is a leading scholar in languages and TESOL education, whose contributions have been instrumental in advancing critical conversations around curriculum, pedagogy, and teacher practice. Her work is distinguished by its focus on bringing multilingual and transnational perspectives, knowledges, and new identity narratives to the forefront of educational inquiry. Her research encompasses key areas of contemporary importance, including multilingual education, post-monolingual research methodologies, curriculum inquiry, and the internationalization of teacher and higher education. Through these strands of scholarship, she has consistently challenged traditional boundaries and has opened new and innovative pathways for both theory and practice in education. At Deakin University, Professor Weinman is a valued member of the Research for Educational Impact Center and the Transforming Curriculum, Assessment and Pedagogy Research Group, where her contributions contribute to inform and shape the future directions of educational research. I'm sure that her address today will not only enrich our understanding, but also encourage thoughtful reflection and dialogue across disciplinary and cultural boundaries. It is now my great honor to invite Associate Professor Michiko Weinman to the podium to deliver her plenary address. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Just about good morning still. And thank you very much for the lovely introduction. I might think to have to borrow a line from Dr. Rasul and ask you to be to empathize with me, because I'm now following the presentations of two illustrious professors, and I'm also aware that I'm the person who's standing between you and morning tea, so I better get on with it. It is my first visit to your beautiful country, and I really would like to thank the conference chair and committee for this wonderful opportunity to spend a whole day here, immersed in scholarly discussion, and to be able to speak to you today. To date, I've kind of explored your country over the last 12 months through literature. So reading world fiction is one of my greatest pleasures outside of doing research. And so I think I've learned a lot by reading a lot of books. However, I'm also really aware that I am kind of the beneficiary of national authors, many of whom I take are actually diasporic authors who are writing in English, and it's actually through English that I've got sort of access to their worldviews and their imaginations. I'd like to take you back to Australia for a moment, though. So in our university context, and also in many other other public occasions, it is customary to open with an acknowledgement of country. So that is a statement of respect and recognition for the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples, who are the traditional custodians of the lands on which we live and work. So I would like to begin my presentation in this way. And as we gather for our conference here, let us take a moment to reflect on the meaning of place and identity. I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the lands on which Deakin University's 4 campuses are located and on which we work, the Wadawurrung, Eastern Ma and Wurundjeri countries. I pay my respect to elders past and present, and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples today. Education has a long and rich heritage on the Australian continent, which we aim to honour and reflect in the ways we teach and learn there. In the spirit of reconciliation, we also recognise the colonisation and the arrival of English and other colonial languages in Australia has impacted the traditional languages and cultures of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples. And we celebrate the work that is being undertaken to reclaim and maintain these Indigenous languages. I have organised my presentation today in 2 parts. So on the first few slides, I put forward a brief conceptual discussion of current theorisations of language ontologies to interrogate existing problematisations of languages and literacies education. In the second half, I present some snippets from a pilot research project that we have undertaken on a recent addition to the languages education program landscape in the state of Victoria in Australia. So this program, which is called Teachers as Co-Learners of Languages, TCL for short, all students and teachers are learners of the school's target language. And in the analysis that we have undertaken about the rationale for the development of this program and its unique characteristics, we aim to bring to light the opportunities which a whole school language teaching and learning program like TCL might present for a recurricularisation of language and literacy learning beyond an English normative orientation. Our analysis has drawn from contemporary transdisciplinary theorisation on language ontologies. As it is beyond the scope of today's presentation to provide a comprehensive discussion, I draw attention to some of the key tenets that language ontology thinking puts forward. Importantly, such thinking is based on the premise that the ontological assumptions underlying our own conceptual ideas about language remain largely unexamined. It argues that there is no independently existing language out there, but rather there are different ways in which we bring languages into being. And this process is contingent on the practices, stories, performances, and enactments that underlie ontological accounts. So looking at the first excerpt on this slide, this is a definition of language taken from the Encyclopedia Britannica, of course. This kind of understanding of language would be familiar and a common sense description of language for many of us. Ontology of language thinking would argue that such conceptualizations of language as cognition, speech, and text in all its form as the primary means for meaning making can only remain incomplete. Such conceptualizations continue to be founded on universalist and mainly Western and modernist ontologies of language as geographically, nationally, culturally, linguistically, and scientifically bounded. In short, this ontologies of languages theorization challenges us to scrutinize the underpinnings of universalist understandings of what language is assumed to be. For example, David Hauck, a linguistic anthropologist who has done a lot of work with indigenous populations in South America, reminds us that there are multiple examples of what he calls language otherwise. Engagement with such axis of ontological contrast in which language is, for example, understood as a bodily substance shared with non-humans, or an entity that has its own spirit, power, and agency, provides new impetus for scrutinizing foundational concepts such as language, culture, humanity, and personhood. While there are multiple ontologies of language that seek to engage a process of undoing singularization and recognizing language as multiplicity, in our recent research work, we have engaged Dimuro Ngurni's three-part framework of language as object, language and languaging as practice, and language as assemblage as a new lens to examine language teaching and learning in different ways. Dimuro and Ngurni state that language as object conceptualizes language as an abstract system which ostensibly provides users with infinite possibilities to construct meaning from a bounded set of signifiers and allows us to conceive of and perform a range of academic, economic, legal, social, and political endeavors. So this kind of conceptualization is not dissimilar to the kinds of understandings that established understandings of language that are articulated in examples such as the excerpt from the Encyclopedia Britannica earlier. Conversely, language and languaging as practice is conceived as action, which engages language as language users as multidimensional language and meaning makers, meaning-making beings. So it opens space to conceptualize alternative worldings in which language learners are positioned as active participants in a dialogic process of languaging. And in considering language and languaging as a dialogic process, this would render constructs of the have and have-nots of English or another language irrelevant, or let's say at least less consuming in producing deficit representations of certain language learners and users. Sorry, just skipping ahead to the next slide. Language as assemblage. So based on an understanding that language is realized and created within the domains in which participants actively operate, language as assemblage encourages defamiliarization from what is known and experienced about language. In doing so, it destabilizes the hegemonic normative status of language as object by recognizing that meaning-making processes always exceed the imagined boundaries of any language system. Language as assemblage thinking as multiple heterogeneous parts linked together to form a whole challenges established ways of conceiving what the object of language learning and teaching is assumed to be. So I'm now trying to connect this conceptual and theoretical thought to an example of recent research. So this is our project team here. We've been very fortunate to work as an interdisciplinary team in our School of Education, bringing together expertise in primary language and literacy education, intercultural learning, additional language education, so that's languages and TESOL, and also in teacher quality and practice in this collaborative pilot project. We were also really privileged to have 2 of our PhD students involved as graduate researchers. And it was also important to us to position ourselves as a multilingual team, despite the fact that English is definitely our lingua academica, and we acknowledge that kind of researching multilingual matters in and through English is contentious. However, we strive to bring a rich linguistic repertoire to this project in our work generally. And these languages that we have between us are Tongan, Greek, German, Japanese, Vietnamese, and Spanish. So what is this Teachers as Co-Learners TCL program? Let me just provide you with a very brief overview. So it is a program that was initially adopted in 2016. It was introduced by the Catholic Education Commission of Victoria. So we have 3 different sectors in the Australian schooling system: government and public, which is the largest, independent or private schools, and the Catholic school sector. So it was a program that complements the existing language teaching approaches and program in the context of Victoria, which are mainly separate subject language instruction, but there are also bilingual and content and language integrated learning CLIL programs. So this program currently includes over 75 primary schools in the Melbourne Archdiocese Catholic Schools short MAX network. It's also offered by a select select schools governed by the 3 other dioceses. So importantly, a hallmark of this program is the collaboration between primary classroom teachers who are generalists and language assistants or language coaches. So the key idea is that the program is delivered by the classroom teacher who would not be a trained language specialist, but who's supported by the language assistant who is a proficient speaker of the language. Languages currently offered in this program include Italian, French, Indonesian, and Auslan, that's Australian Sign Language. The language assistant in this kind of program is usually not a full-time staff member. So comprehensive curriculum resources, including lesson plans and learning activities, have been centrally developed by the MAX staff in consultation with schools and teachers to ensure that the generalist primary school teacher has the right materials to run the classes with the assistance of the language assistant and also the language ambassadors. So these are students who are invited to self-nominate as co-facilitators of the learning activities. TCL as a whole school approach to language teaching and learning was informed by Max's desire to address seemingly intractable systemic and structural challenges in languages teaching and learning in the Australian primary schooling context. So importantly, this program sought to address the challenge of limited time on task by scheduling daily 15-minute language lessons. So compared to that, most Australian primary schools only allocate about 30 minutes per week to additional language learning. It also sought to address the language teacher shortages in primary schools, which were further exacerbated following the pandemic. So just very briefly, overall, in this research, we were really interested to explore mainly the experiences and perspectives of classroom teachers, language assistants, and curriculum leaders, and examine the ways of how working within this approach may or may not have shifted their understanding of multilingualism and their practice of languages and literacy education in English-dominant contexts. As this was only a small pilot, we conducted 8 online Zoom focus groups. Participants were the populations, as stated earlier. The conversations lasted between 40 to 90 minutes. On average, we had 3 to 4 participants and 1 to 2 of, team members as facilitators. And the focus group conversations were organised within each school's setting to minimise disruption, but our data analysis was undertaken within and across different school contexts. So what have we learned from all this by bringing an ontologies of languages framework to our analysis? So firstly, we noted that, and this is not unsurprising, that language's object is the prevalent ontological conceptualization of languages underpinning this really innovative approach as well. So I don't mean this as a criticism or a critique. This is probably something that is to be expected, considering how languages curricula worldwide use the very name of a named language and associated name cultures like French, Italian, Japanese, to denote the curriculum subject and the object of learning. So the ways in which learning content is organised in languages curricula focuses on aspects of language as a system, including functional language use for effective communication, creating texts in the target language, understanding linguistic features and intercultural aspects of meaning making. As pointed out earlier, such ways of capturing what language is have developed from a long-standing history of thought, prevalent in but not exclusive to European and Western traditions of thinking about language. So we therefore do not seek to critique TCL for its language object orientation. Rather, it's our intention to put forward this observation as a pragmatic acknowledgement of what is arguably the current state of play in the curricularization of languages as a subject in many global education systems. However, in engaging the concept of language and languaging as practice, we would argue that approaches such as the TCL program have significant potential to challenge and move beyond language's object conceptualization. As teachers' pedagogical practices are likely to pivot on what language is to them, TCL as a whole school approach has the potential to shift commonplace understandings of being and becoming a speaker and user of multiple languages. We argue that an inclusive and democratic view of TCL would be that it seeks to engage every learner's and language user's expertise and skill as a resource. So while the language assistant's language expertise is central, students are also encouraged to take on leadership in facilitating the daily language learning activities. Classroom teachers' general pedagogical knowledge would be key in supporting their students and their own language learning experience as equal participants in the school's language ecology. So such a bringing together of collective resources into the experiences of collaborative language learning in the classroom and beyond could shift the purpose and power of language using because, as Coyle and Meyer 2023 argue, it is ultimately what learners and teachers do together that leads us to deeper understanding of being and becoming plurilingual and pluriliterate learners. Sorry, I'm struggling to get to the next slide. Here we go. No? Sorry, I'm going the wrong way. So looking at some of the possibilities that the concept of language as assemblage might provide for rethinking language and languaging, we posit that TCL's pedagogy of language co-learning supports collective linguistic risk-taking through enabling a safe environment, safe collaborative environment in which meaningful communicative opportunities in target language use within and beyond the classroom is encouraged for and by all learners. Further, the process of students and teachers becoming and being co-learners, co-facilitators, and co-teachers of a new language opens space to embrace a process of unknowing of what and how languages and literacies learning is assumed to be within current disciplinary curricula and knowledge structures, and also perceptions about who has the linguistic authority in the classroom. Additionally, as understandings of the forms which language and languaging take for practitioners may be shifted, this could also challenge and regenerate teachers' perceptions of the ways in which their practices intersect with other concepts which may be associated with language teaching and learning, such as culture and intercultural learning. Overall, we would like to argue that this has potential to contribute to a more comprehensive and grounded understanding of how language is realized and created within the domains in which participants operate, and to challenge current ways of thinking about what we believe the object of languages and literacies teaching in schooling is supposed to be. I'd like to conclude with the last few paragraphs from Hauk's 2023 paper, which I really recommend it to you very highly. I reread it in regular intervals because it's a fabulously thought-provoking piece of work. So in concluding, Hauk reminds us that language is inherently ambivalent, and that as analysts, we should take this ambivalence as an invitation to remain open to ways of thinking otherwise of and with language. This also means to recognize the limitations of what we can definitively say about language at any given time. I'm certainly always left wondering what I mean by the word language whenever I engage in this kind of conceptual and theoretical work. And if you are now wondering the same, to say it in Hauk's words, I know that I have achieved my goal for today's presentation. And that brings me to the end. So thank you very much for your time and attention. I'll leave you with some references and also some useful links if this is of interest to you for further reading. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Weinman. We now take a moment to express our gratitude to those who helped us make this day a success. As a token of appreciation for their invaluable contributions to ICONELT 2025, we are pleased to present tokens of appreciation to our distinguished guests. We now warmly invite the Dean of the Faculty of Arts, Dr. Prabhat Ekanayakar, to present the token of appreciation to Emeritus Professor Arjuna Parakrama. Thank you, sir. Next, we kindly invite the head of the Department of English Language Teaching, Professor Pushpa Vitharana, to present the token of appreciation to Dr. Ramula Razul. Thank you, Madam. Finally, we invite Mr. Indrajit Izoisa to present the token of appreciation to Professor Michiko Weinman.
To extend our heartfelt gratitude to everyone who made this event possible, I now invite Ms. Shalini Vijayaratna, Conference Co-Secretary, Department of English Language Teaching, University of Peradeniya, to deliver the vote of thanks.
Good morning, distinguished guests, respected keynote and plenary speakers, colleagues, presenters, and dear participants. On behalf of the organizing committee of ICONELT 2025, it is my profound honor and privilege to deliver the vote of thanks at the conclusion of this landmark inaugural session of the ICONELT 2025. First and foremost, I extend our deepest gratitude to our Vice Chancellor, Professor Terence Madhujit, our Acting Vice Chancellor, Professor Ranjit Pallegama, and our Acting Deputy Vice Chancellor, Professor Ravi Kurupuge, for their encouragement and support, without which this event would not have been possible. We are immensely grateful to our keynote speakers, Emeritus Professor Arjuna Parakrama and Dr. Ramola Razul, whose scholarly presence and insightful contributions set the stage for the meaningful academic dialogues that will unfold throughout this conference. Their expertise and perspectives will undoubtedly deepen the conversations and stimulate fresh ways of thinking in the field of English language teaching. Our thanks also go to our plenary speaker, Professor Michiko Weinman, whose engagement today will frame our discussions with thought-provoking perspectives and help us reflect critically on the evolving landscape of pedagogy and practice. We are deeply indebted to the Dean of the Faculty of Arts, Dr. Prabhat Ekanayakar, whose generous support and constant encouragement were invaluable in bringing this event to success. His guidance, together with the support of the faculty, provided the foundation on which ICONELT 2025 has been built. Our special appreciation goes to the head of the Department of English Language Teaching and our conference chair, Professor Pushpa Vitharana, for her inspiring leadership and vision, which guides us through every step of this journey. Our thanks goes to all the deans, and a very special note of thanks goes to all the departments and the department heads of the Faculty of Arts, University of Peradeniya, whose collaboration has enriched this event. In particular, we are deeply grateful to the Department of Education for their wholehearted support. Special thanks are due to the head of the IT department, Professor Sakuntala Yatigammana, Mr. Pramita Veerasekara, and the staff of the IT department, the university webmaster and the media unit, and the university audiovisual team for ensuring smooth technical coordination and wide outreach. We would also like to sincerely thank Ms. Thamali Ratnayaka for her invaluable support in designing the conference materials, which greatly contributed to the professional presentation of the event. We are also grateful to the postgraduate institutes whose continued collaboration strengthens the academic spirit of our university. Our thanks also go to the librarian of the University of Peradeniya, Mr. R. Maheswaran, for his contributions. We greatly acknowledge the support of the University Bursar, Mr. A.M.N.B. Arampat, the Assistant Bursar, Mr. Yenuka Pahalage, the Deputy Registrars of the Faculty of Arts, Mrs. H.A.T.N. Amarasena, and Mrs. P.K. Herath for their valuable assistance. We are indebted to the Chief Medical Officer, Dr. H.M.C.L. Herath, and the Public Relations Officer, Mr. M. Abhay Vikrama, to the Works, Landscape, and the Electrical departments for ensuring the smooth running of logistical arrangements and for their indispensable support. To the presenters and paper contributors, thank you for willing to share your scholarship, innovation, and experiences. Together, your contribution will shape ICONELT into a truly dynamic and engaging academic space. We also extend our appreciation to the reviewers whose commitment ensured both quality and smooth proceedings. Session chairs, we appreciate your time and commitment, which will make the conference more meaningful. A special word of thanks must also go to the organizing committee and all subcommittees and many others whose dedication, often unseen, made this event possible. We also like to take this opportunity to extend our appreciation to Ms. Jennifer Edema and Ms. Deumini Amunugama for their graceful conduct of the proceedings this morning, which added both warmth and elegance to the inauguration. Along with them, the dedicated staff of the Department of English Language Teaching, both academic and non-academic, deserve our deepest gratitude for their tireless efforts and unwavering commitment in making this conference a resounding success. We also thank the non-academic staff of the faculty, the security officers, and the cleaning staff whose behind-the-scene work created a welcoming and well-maintained environment for all of us. To our sponsors, including the Postgraduate Institute of Humanities and Social Sciences and the Bank of Ceylon, we thank you sincerely for your generous support. Finally, to all our participants, your presence, engagement, and enthusiasm are what make ICONELT 2025 a vibrant forum of ideas. And last but not least, we extend our heartfelt thanks to everyone whose names were mentioned and those unmentioned for their invaluable contributions in making this event possible. Ladies and gentlemen, as we bring this inaugural session to a close, let us take forward the spirit of collaboration, critical inquiry, and innovation that has been cultivated here at ICONELT 2025. Thank you all, and we look forward to seeing you all at the technical sessions.
Ladies and gentlemen, this brings us to the close of the inauguration session of ICONELT 2025. We sincerely thank each of you for being here this morning and for joining us at the start of something truly special. But this is just the beginning. The heart of this conference lies in the sessions that follow, spaces where ideas will spark, discussions will flow, and research will meet real-world practice. These conversations have the power to inspire, challenge, and transform the way we teach and learn English today.
As we step into the rest of the day, we invite you to immerse yourselves fully, ask questions, connect with colleagues, share your experiences, and carry home insights that will shape your classrooms and institutions. Today's program is more than a milestone. It is a part of a continuing journey, a journey of curiosity, collaboration, and creativity. We hope to see all of you in future forums and platforms where together we can continue to push the boundaries of English language teaching in Sri Lanka and beyond. Thank you once again for being a part of this moment. May this conference be inspiring, meaningful, and memorable for every one of us. With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, please rise for the national anthem.
Sri Lanka Mata, Mata Sri Lanka, Namo, 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 Namo Mata. Sundara Sri Hari, Surani Ati Somanala, Nanya Nanya Nikama, Maya Sri Lanka, Namo, 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 Upaya Upaya Apasatya, Upaya Apashanti, Apahanya Kulekanti, Apadi Anuprani, Upaya Jivaname, Apamuktiya Upadi, Sri Lanka, Namo, 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 Namo.